Hello again, everybody. This is Craig Evans of Autism Hangout, and thank you for tuning into this installment of the Autism Hangout feature program series, Apps for Autism. To many people on the spectrum, emotions are baffling. Recognizing, understanding, and controlling them is an ongoing goal addressed in numerous books and conferences. Today's guest has an app for that. Occupational therapist, special education teacher, and author Emily Laurent has brought her formidable background and experience to bear in the development of an app called the Feelings Book app. Autism Hangout, please welcome today's guest, Emily Laurent. Welcome, Amy. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Craig. It's great to be here.
Now, you are so well credentialed. You're an occupational therapist. You teach at colleges. You teach on communication, and you teach about our special kids. Can you tell us how all this has come to bear now in the development of this app called the Feelings Book?
Sure. So as an occupational therapist, I have a special interest in looking at arousal and emotional regulation in children and looking from a lot of different perspectives. So the physiological side for children, as well as some of the things that we think about in terms of sensory processing, but also the cognitive and emotional side of it. And so as part of that, we, in the year 2000, I think, my colleague and I came together and we created a book called the Feelings Book, where we were working with children who were really struggling with identifying their emotional state, being able to grade their emotional experience, and then being able to know what to do about that. So we created a little hard copy book that was actually a prototype for 2 students that we were working with, and it took off. People were very interested in it when we were talking and speaking at conferences, so we wound up self-publishing that. And as we were playing around with the book and, the world of technology has grown, people started approaching us and saying, hey, you know, would it be really interesting if we could have something very dynamic, a dynamic display, say on an iPhone or an iPad or something like that. And so it really was kind of the public or our consumers looking at us and saying, hey, can we transform this useful tool into something that's more dynamic and very changeable and customizable for students? So that's what we did.
So now there's an app for Apple devices that helps children identify, understand, and then regulate emotions?
That's the goal, yes. So it's got 3 different developmental levels in it. So even at the most basic level, where we're just looking at 4 emotions, because what we know from the developmental literature is that pretty much all of our emotional experience stems from 4 basic emotions: happy, sad, mad, and scared. Everything else is kind of a combination of those with maybe some perspective taking and things thrown on top. But those 4 emotions, we help children identify their emotional experience, and once they are able to do that, the app, as soon as you push on whatever the emotion is, say happy, it takes you immediately to a screen that's got several coping strategies or several strategies for dealing with that emotion. The app does include stock photos, so we've given some real basic ideas of generic coping strategies that we expect to kind of cut across developmental levels as well as chronological age. But the real beauty of the app is that it's customizable, so that if students or individuals have specific strategies that they use at the time of experiencing an emotion, they can, if they're able, or whoever's working with them, can just insert that photo right into their coping strategy in that emotional label. So each emotion has its own kind of basket of tricks, so to speak.
And I know that there's different levels. You'd alluded to this a little earlier, but it works with younger children, children that are still are beginning to get into visual things but don't understand words, and then kids that are starting to understand words better, and then more what we'll say like elementary school level.
The first level is for those kids who are just beginning, as you said, to understand visual representations, symbols, concepts, and that highest level is really for those children who are early readers, so are able to kind of categorize it within text and not just use photographs or images.
Now, I know it's customizable too, but since the folks at Autism Hangout haven't seen it yet, let's show a brief demo, then we'll come back and talk more.
Sounds great. Welcome to a brief overview of the Feelings Book application for iPhone, iTouch, and iPad. You'll notice on the home screen we have 2 options. We can view books or create a new book. Let's go ahead and view books so we can see the 3 different levels of supports that can be created within this application. The first level is for children who are early symbolic communicators. Once they identify the emotion they're experiencing, they're taken immediately to a screen that displays regulatory strategies for that particular emotion. Stock photos are included for each emotion, and they're different depending on the emotion. This is entirely customizable, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. The second level is for children who are at the emerging language stage, who have a little bit more language. Here they're going to select their emotion. They're able to categorize their emotional experience according to degree. They're also able to start to identify what makes them feel a particular way. This is entirely customizable with the child entering photos of their own causal factors. The third screen the child's able to enter at this level are the regulatory strategies. Again, stock photos are included, but these can be customized to include regulatory strategies for a particular child. The third level is for early readers. You'll notice that most of this support is done in text. They're able to use the meter to grade their emotion, but when they're entering in causal factors for emotion, again, they're entering within text. When they get to the regulatory strategy page, we do include the stock photos for regulatory strategies, but when they're customizing and entering, they won't be entering photos, they'll be entering text and a simple icon will appear. To create a new book, all you do is hit Create New Book, go ahead, enter the child's name, and select the level, level 1, 2, or 3 for the child. We've selected level 1 here. I'm going to show you how to edit and add in a new photo. So if a child's regulatory strategy isn't depicted, we can go ahead and hit that plus sign. It will take us to the camera roll in our device, and when we find the photo that represents the regulatory strategy that the child can use when they're experiencing that emotion, we can go ahead and choose it. That will optimize and save it, and then we can go ahead and give it a text label. Once we give it a text label, we can go ahead and save it, and it's going to become part of the bank of regulatory strategies for that child.
I know this thing is relatively easy to customize. You can put in your own pictures, but one of the things that you'd mentioned in your material is that this device and this program can be used to teach and to reflect, but also in the heat of the moment. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so I think as we're working with children, we really want to help them understand their emotional experience. So initially when you're using a tool like this, you want to help them identify their emotional state that's true, but at those lower levels of arousal so that they actually can still process and understand the information that you're trying to teach them. And so this app is really useful in helping kids start to identify emotions, because you can whip it out quickly and show them the screen of the different emotions, and they can select, or you can help them select and go straight into those regulatory strategies when they're at those lower levels. This almost becomes like a comfort object because they know that this is going to help them get through this stressful time. So that's the heat of the moment part. I think it is critical to say we don't want to introduce an iPhone, an iPad, an iTouch with a new app on it when kids are in those really high states of arousal for the first time. Because it's always dangerous for the technology.
But your theory is very sound, and I can see where over time that would work. Now, I'm assuming this, like most the apps, are available at the iTunes store?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you go into iTunes and search Feelings Book, it pops right up.
Excellent. And Amy, where can people go to get more information about you and your book?
If you're interested in my information or in the Feelings Book, I would suggest checking out my website, which is www.amy-laurent.com. And I stress the hyphen, and it's really important because there is an amylaurent.com without a hyphen. It's an executive dating service. So if you want information on autism and intervention for autism, amy-laurent.com. And I suppose if you're looking for a life partner, maybe the other side.
Well, you'll be quick to figure out if you're at the wrong site. Amy, thank you for coming on today, and I want to say thank you for all you do for our special kids.
And thank you for having me. This was great. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm just loving these apps for autism. And thank you, Autism Hangout, for tuning in. I will be back again soon with another app for autism.